Good afternoon, USA. My name is Alan Howell, and I'm here on behalf of government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I know you might be thinking about the independent swing voters I've mentioned in previous videos and articles. These voters have been identified in research by Thomas Piketty, the French economist, in the paper Brahmin Left versus Merchant Right, as unlikely to vote at all unless they identify someone running for president of the United States of America who is clearly a populist and who wishes to drastically alter the political landscape. If you remember, the conclusions drawn by Piketty were borne out very strongly in the 2016 U.S. election cycle. Independent swing voters are not likely to vote for the lesser of two evils, at least from the likely perspective of choosing between A, a democratic socialist, and B, a neoliberal fascist. In that case, they might just stay home in the general election and certainly would not be likely to come out and support someone like Bernie Sanders in the primaries. I was in a diner eating breakfast this morning and I noticed that someone had paid for a local ad on my placemat. Diners typically have disposable paper placemats that feature local businesses. I don't know who paid for this ad, but it basically said that trusting God instead of trusting in people would make it impossible to vote for socialism. In other words, trust in God should make it unacceptable to use our own brains and ingenuity to solve any of the following kinds of problems: unfair wages, unemployment, underemployment, a lack of affordable health care coverage, poor schools, woefully underfunded infrastructure, predatory lending, huge tax breaks for the wealthy, laws that favor huge corporations that ship our jobs elsewhere and leave the working class out in the cold, laws that favor huge companies over mom and pop companies, the opioid epidemic, and on and on. Clearly, many swing voters and independent voters have been hoodwinked about what socialism is and isn't. Further, if they have been hoodwinked into believing that faith in God doesn't allow them to lift a finger to solve their own problems, the brainwashing process has gone even farther than I would have thought possible. I was always taught that God helps those who help themselves, and I would hope that the kind of pluck and ingenuity that has led us to become the kind of country we are today would also lead us to rise up out of the stupor cast over us by unfaithful politicians who would use our religious beliefs to swindle us. Research and polling indicate that independent swing voters will go in Bernie's direction and or stay home in the general election. But how can we persuade such voters to vote for an avowed democratic socialist in the primaries, and even more unlikely, to register as a Democrat early enough to vote in states that require this? Leaving the line for president on the ballot blank or voting third party independent in the general election will only go so far if Bernie doesn't receive the primary nomination. Yes, it will ensure that a corporate Democrat doesn't win the office of president, but it will not end the increasing government corruption that has spread like cancer over the last 70 years. The voters who voted for Donald Trump because he would, quote, bring our jobs back, need to be shown that Bernie Sanders, and all of us standing up behind him in increasingly active unions and in other forms of organized labor, is the most likely person to bring the power back to the people in the form of higher wages, better working and living conditions, and more power over how government functions. Bottom line, it's about freedom. In this election cycle, at least, only Bernie Sanders is likely to start us down the road that could result in a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. If you are one of the increasing number of U.S. citizens who is desperate for solutions, please share this video broadly. Leave comments if you're willing to help by rolling up your sleeves, whatever color your shirt collar is, and by joining the effort to help Bernie Sanders receive the Democratic nomination for President of the United States. This ad was paid for by the political action committee called Citizens Against Plutocracy.